Welcome back, everybody. I'm going to be going over my picks for this year's March Madness tournament, as well as covering some statistics that help me come to those decisions and might help you make your own picks as well. So to start off, I will just be covering, some of the upsets that I have and, explaining why I picked, each team that I did. So to start, UNC, I picked them to be Old Miss. This was mainly just because I feel like they were kind of close. But as we can see here, UNC does have the lower BPI rank. That's something that you don't entirely always see with, teams of a higher seed. But, they had it, so I felt like that one was kind of an easy one. Plus, I do really like UNC as well. Michigan State, I was a little bit against them at first, but I am actually debating on changing that pick. Creighton over Louisville. These two are very close, but as we can see from that statistic there, number 9 seeds have won, majority of time, 66% in recent games. So that one I feel like might just be like a gimme pick for that, especially they're both very similar. And, Creighton was a little bit better last year, so I could see them going kind of far. This is another one, BYU versus VCU. I was debating on picking VCU just because I think that their stats were fairly close as well. But I didn't want to pick too many just because, that's another statistic. There's an average number of, I guess, upsets that happen every year. So, you don't want to pick too many. You don't want to pick too little. Alabama versus Vanderbilt. I felt like Vanderbilt was going to be slightly closer to Alabama, but their offense is just on a different level this year. So I did stick with Alabama for that one. UConn, they did win the last 2 years, and I did predict that they would go back to back. Obviously, they lost Donovan Clingan and Stephon Castle, who are both now in the NBA. So they are taking a little bit of a dip as a team this year. Memphis versus Colorado State. This one was another one that was a little bit close. I just think that, Memphis is the better team, but as we can see there, they're fairly similar. So that could be another pick that you could take, as an upset. Drake versus Missouri. I feel like Missouri is quite better than Drake. But I don't know. Something in my gut just tells me to pick Drake for this one. If we just scroll down here, we can see that, Drake does have a much better defense as a team. Even though they have a much worse offense. It's about a 15-point split either way. I just think that this is one that, might actually matter a little bit for that. Going further, I have Kansas over St. John's. Scrolling down a little bit here, we see it doesn't look too good, but Kansas is right behind St. John's in the BPI. And other than that, just having similar stats as well. St. John's defense is a little bit better and their offense a little bit better. This is one that I just think could happen. Kansas is usually one of those teams that can do pretty good. Purdue, they made it to the finals last year with Zach Edey, but now he is on the Memphis Grizzlies in the NBA. So this is just one that I had as an upset. I didn't originally have this, but again, just trying to pick more things that I could see possibly happening. Purdue could possibly beat Clemson as well, but I don't know. I think this is one where it's just like you lose and you just kind of miss out on going on that run. Other than that, some close ones were like Kentucky and Tennessee. I do think Tennessee is better, but I might just go with Kentucky because I feel like they could just possibly get like a lucky game and, win like that. Again, kind of different play styles between the two teams. So it kind of just depends on, the matchup and how they're doing that day. Duke, Cooper Flag will be back. So, now they are once again one of the best teams. So I do have to have them going a little bit further just because they have that superstar factor. He's going to be the number 1 pick in this upcoming NBA draft as long as he decides to enter the draft. So you can never really count him out. I do have Florida making it to the championship, and I originally want to have Houston there just because they've been good for like the last like 4 or 5 years. Always just being like that like number 1 seed. but I don't know. I just didn't really have that. We can see on average, there's around 8 upsets um, that occur. This is as in the last 14 years. Um, the number one seed, number two seed don't always make it to the Elite Eight, so I'm gonna try to readjust around that. Um, and then as well as have the final points, I believe it was around 135 points is the average. So mine was a little bit high at 147, but I believe last year it was a little bit higher as well. Not that that would have anything to do with it, but the teams that I have are very offensive oriented teams as well. Florida and Duke, averaging around 80 points each. So I do think that, getting in that 70 mark for each of them could be quite possible. Um, Going over some other things, yeah, this is one that I'm going to have to say Creighton could definitely just go on a run here. I kind of realized, recording halfway through this, that I did need a few more upsets going into this. So I'm going to have to pick Creighton just to beat Auburn. I was looking at some other stats as well based on like past teams, like 3-point shooting, their defense, how they've been doing before. I believe Auburn lost 3 of their last 4 games going into the tournament, and a team has never won the tournament while losing that many games going into it. So I think that will definitely affect them and allow Creighton to possibly go on a run here. Again, it is just a game to game basis, so anything could happen. But this is an upset that I could see. I believe some other ones that I picked were possibly changing my Final Four. Florida, I think that they did fit all those statistics that I just mentioned. But personally, I don't know. I just feel like they might not make it. So going against the statistics a little bit might be an error on my part. But I think that Michigan State, could make it to the Final Four. And then going down a little bit further, changing a few things up, having Duke over Houston originally. Like I said, I did want to have Houston just because they have one of the best defenses in the entire league. But again, you can't count out that superstar factor. I was going to have Maryland possibly beating Florida, Kentucky possibly beating Houston, because now I did switch them over to Tennessee, and possibly even Texas Tech beating Florida as well. Maybe Kansas beating Texas Tech and losing to whatever team is over there, Maryland or Florida. I don't know. There's just so many different options that you can have with this, and that's why nobody ever gets it perfectly right. But this is just going to be my main one, and I'm going to do another separate one as well. Possibly just having Houston, making it to the championship and winning against another team. But that's going to be all from me. Best of luck to everybody who is making their brackets, and have a good tournament.